So good afternoon, everyone. I'm actually quite, it's post-lunch and everyone is still trickling into the rooms, which is great. So thank you very much for being here. My name is Bharati Ramachandran and I work with the Federation of Indian Animal Protection Organizations. It's great to see a lot of familiar faces here and some faces that I've got to know over the past couple of days. So, oh, I need to figure out how to. Can I have my slides on, please? All right, yeah, there we go. So the first thing you will notice here, can anyone tell me what is different on this? The FIAPO logo is different, and I'm super excited about that. You are getting a sneak peek into this new logo, and there's this fabulous group called Violet Studios, and they are a sister concern of vegan activists, and they've been working on a new visual identity for us and a new website, and this is our secret new logo, and you are the very first people to be able to see it. So thank you. It is very beautiful. I will explain it to you one-on-one because this session is really about something else, though visual identity is a very important part of fundraising. I've called this session Learning from the Trenches, partly because it draws from the experience of FIAPO over the past, I can say, 18 months, where it does feel like we've been in the trenches, waging a peaceful war for the sake of animals, but also propping ourselves up. So it has been a very hard time for us, but there are some incredible lessons that we've learned of what to do and what not to do that we are sharing with you. The other side of this is that over the past, I've spent pretty much the better part of my career before FIAPO, about 21 years or so, in helping nonprofits build a base of support that is local, that is domestic, rather building a constituency of support. Now, we usually hear this word constituency when we talk about politicians, right? Politicians have constituencies. But I tend to look at nonprofits in the same way. You have a constituency that you need to serve in order that the constituency supports you back. So in that sense, for us, apart from the animals that we serve, there are also the donors who enable that, who make that possible, so they are also a constituency that we serve. So this is going to be a very, it is intended to be a workshop, not a session where I'm standing here up on stage talking at you. So there will be parts where I will call for you to also do some thinking. And I really hope that through this, we learn something that is of use to our organizations. Some of you are building new organizations. Some of you have established organizations. But I really hope that this learning process helps all of us. So the very first question that I really want to ask is, who is your donor? And the donor is, of course, inextricably intertwined with this process of doing our work. But when I ask who is your donor, the reason I'm talking about this is the whole session today, if I have to summarize it in one phrase, it is about diversifying your income sources. Can anybody tell me what that means, diversifying income sources? Any ideas? Having income from multiple sources, yes. Not depend, perfect. You've just nailed it. So it's basically about getting an income from different sources. Now, and I'm going to be extremely honest about FIAPO and our learnings also. One of the reasons organizations get into trouble, which is what we did, was over-dependence on one source of funding. So that can happen, and it seems wonderful because people are giving you lots of money and you're cruising along until something happens. That something can be in your environment, it can be within the organization, it can be anything in the environment, and suddenly, bam, your work is compromised, the work you're doing for animals is compromised, and your survival is at stake. And the reason for this is that overdependence. So when you're in a good place, that is really the time to start diversifying your income sources, not when you're in a crisis, right? So some of us don't have that luxury, and it is, I just really do believe in this concept of karmic karma, which comes because I spent 21 years before FIAPO preaching to other people and working with other people on how to build a diversified portfolio of income. And of course, when I came into FIAPO, I had to put it all to use, and I'm still continuing to do that. Now, when I say who is your donor, I have, okay, I'm sorry about that animation. It looks ginormous on the screen. It looks very tiny on my laptop. So the first category of donors to farmed animal organizations or organizations doing work on farmed animal issues is institutions. And I'm really not going to dwell on these because these donors exist. They were set up for the purpose of giving money away. So as long as your mission aligns with these donors, you're pretty much going to get that money unless you mess up. The second category is corporates. How many organizations here working on corporate issues get money from corporations? Money to do your program? You do? Fantastic. Is it a pleasant process? Have I put you on the spot? Oh, fantastic. Yeah, of course. Yeah. Anyone else who gets money from corporations for farmed animal work? Slightly difficult, hit or miss, but it is possible. And but the category that I'm going to look at the most today is individuals. And these could be two kinds of individuals. You could have major donors who give you lots of money, and you could have lots of small donors who give you little amounts of money. And the reason I evangelize individual donors is because individual donors can put you on the path of self-reliance, and we will see how shortly. Farmed animal donors really fall into, if you look at it psychologically, there are three kinds of donors. One is large farmed animal donors, EA donors, who completely understand the issues and who give because this is what they believe in. They know the issues and they give their money. The second category is really animal lovers, usually cat and dog people, who can then be persuaded to give money for farmed animal work. And the third kind of farmed animal donor is cause neutral. Cause neutral people who don't really know or believe in farmed animal work, but who believe in justice. So they're not so much for animals, but they're for justice. So these are the three kinds of donors that you have, and we are going to look at the last category today. Has anyone here heard about 80-20? Yes, please. Yeah, so you're talking about it from an effort and outcome perspective, but there's also anyone knows the name for this principle? Brilliant. I don't have chocolates, but yeah, please help yourself to one when you go out. So yes, it's called Pareto's principle, and it was somebody in the early 20th century who came up with this. And basically what it means is that 80% of the funds that you need for your organization will come from 20% of your donors, right? Which means you will have, if you have your budget, the large parts of it will come from a handful of donors who more or less give you most of your money. Okay? So in that sense, over-dependence is built into the structure of our organizations, right? This is already an over-dependent method. So if this is true, why are we then focusing our attention on that 80% of donors who give you small amounts of money, adding up to 20% of your budget? Why are we focusing on those donors? Any ideas? Why are we wasting time, money, effort, looking at all these lots of people who are going to give you little bits of money? Absolutely. So what happens is, the psychology of individuals is that once they give, are you able to see my very eloquent chart here? I was very thrilled with this. So once they give you, they then give you again, which is what you're saying, right, Charan? So they give you again. And the best part about when they give again is they usually give you either more frequently or they give you more in terms of amounts, except, and there's a caveat here, except when you mess up very badly. Then they don't give you at all. And if you think, oh, no, I will not mess up very badly. We all can mess up very badly. So they either, but once they give you, they can actually give you more in amounts or in frequency, unless you mess up badly. Once they give you more in amounts or frequency, they get invested in your cause, unless you mess up very badly. And once they get invested, they can actually become part of that 20% who give you lots of money. And more importantly, they can be with you for life. So in the mid-2000s, which also brilliantly dates me, that I can quote studies from the mid-2000s. In the mid-2000s, Greenpeace did this study, and they found that donors are like, they follow Newton's first law of physics. Now, who studied physics in this room? In school? Prashant, you're grinning. Did you study physics in school? You did. What is Newton's first law? That's third. It is about inertia. Oh, 10 on 10. But yeah, it is that is one of Newton's third laws. Sorry, I'm just having, this is post-lunch, so excuse me for this. So Newton's first law really says that any object, if it is at rest, will continue to stay at rest. And if it is in motion, will continue to stay in motion unless there is an external force that is applied on it, right? So donors are exactly like that. If they don't give you, they continue to not give you unless you do something remarkable. And if they give you, Greenpeace found this. So this is not just me saying it. Greenpeace found that when they start to give you, they will continue to give you unless you do something awful or lose their trust in some way. So this really means that once you get a donor in, the first, really the step, the struggle, and this marketing people know this all the time, that the first conversion is really the most difficult thing. But once the donor is in the door, you really have it much easier, right? Now let's look at some reasons why donors don't give to farmed animal issues. Any ideas? Perfect. Did you have some, I know all the answers, juice? Okay, yes. So, yes, the first really reason is they don't know. They're not aware of farmed animal issues at all. The second reason is nobody asked them. Nobody asked them for a donation. Because they said, oh, that's a cat person, that's a dog person, that's an elephant person, that's a this person, that person, and nobody really bothered to ask them. And if you think, oh, that is too simplistic, this is not something that I made up on the spot. This is something that Phonalytics said. And there is a study that Phonalytics did in 2019 that said this. Farmed animals received almost as much money as companion animals when donors were given the opportunity to support them. So for example, if a bunch of donors gave dogs and cat organizations $100, the same group, when asked for money for farmed animal issues, gave $86. Yes, it is a bit less, but it is considerably more than the zero that you would expect from committed cat and dog funders, right? So this study really showed. There's another thing that this study showed, which I'm not quoting here, but it also showed that when a donor gives to one animal organization, which is anything, elephants, cats, dogs, surgeries, shelters, anything, they are much more likely to give to farmed animal issues. So these are very key learnings from the Phonalytics study, but, and of course, as in everything in life, there is a caveat. The caveat is the farmed animal appeals in this study were diet neutral. The messaging did not mention diet, it did not mention veganism, and it did not ask the donors to change their diets. When you don't do that, then people they respond to the suffering component of your messaging, and they then give you money. So what does this imply? What implications does it have for organizations who are looking to raise money? You can do welfare work and? No. Actually, you can do behavioral change work. It's just that you cannot, the person that you're asking to change their behavior, so initially when someone's unfamiliar with your cause, you can ask for only one thing. Either you ask them to change their behavior or you ask them to give you money. You can't ask them to do both because that is too high a bar for somebody to jump through. So basically, donating to a farmed animal charity is much easier for them. Giving money, as countless parents in the modern digital age have discovered, is giving money or giving things is much easier than making behavior change. So, by the way, there's a cool thing. Do you know that this illustration, this cartoon, was AI generated? So, yeah, try it out. It's actually quite cool. When you put it into, if you want to do newsletters, you want to do any kind of material, and you want visuals, you write it into, I tried Claude. Claude required a pro version, but if you do ChatGPT, it will easily give you visuals, cartoons, anything that you want. So, what it really means is that asking people to both do a change in their behavior and to give you money is too high an ask. So you have to make it easier for the donor to take that very first step. That first step is, we just saw, it was all important, right? Because once they're in, they can't escape. It's Hotel California. Can't check out. Yeah, so you're in. You're trapped. Sorry, I'm just making it sound extremely... but yeah. However, there is another thing that studies have also shown, that once people are in, if you want, they might give you twice or thrice, But if you want them to increase in terms of the amount they give and stay with you for life, then they need to buy into the cause. They really need to get invested. And that is a very, very important point for us to understand, that while it's a little bit like how much information do I need to give that is just right. Not too much, not too little. So the third reason why donors don't give to farmed animal causes is because their will to act or their incentive to act is much, 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 much smaller than the discomfort that they are feeling. You might have a similar thing in advocacy as well, where the discomfort is so huge and their will to act is so small that they don't want to take that very first step. But this is true of this. So the first thing really that we have to do is build will. So one of the things that we've been experimenting with over the past 3 or 4 months is giving selected packages of information to donors and making that knowledge stick, but not overwhelming people with information. And So, for example, how many of you work in advocacy? Advocacy? Everyone does advocacy here, right? And there are concepts that are very crucial to advocacy, right? And we want our donors to buy into those concepts, right? Let me give you an idea. We use this all the time in our appeals, in our fundraising copy, sentient. Who knows what sentient is outside this room? Yeah. Nobody knows. People hear the word sentient here inside these rooms all the time. But go and try asking your neighbor what sentient means, even in your local language. Translate. Still, sentience is not a concept that people can wrap their heads around. So I like this example from Eurogroup for Animals, which is a well-quoted, very often used example, that don't say sentient, break it down into something that people can understand, that a farmed animal is someone, not something. And that really makes people think. When you break down words like sentient, the other thing is this word like speciesism, and we love this word, which is great if you're publishing, you're in academia, you are making a very nuanced point about advocacy. But if you're trying to raise money, speciesism is not really the word to do it with, right? Melanie Joy brilliantly broke this down into a concept, why we love dogs, eat pigs, and wear cows. So that really makes people think, because it just breaks it down without using this secret code language that only animal organizations use. Almost as if we've got a conspiracy to not make ourselves understood in the outside real world, right? There are other terms as well. Non-human animals. Please don't use it in your fundraising material. Yeah? I know it makes a political point, but you do not want to make a political point with your donor. You want the donor to give you money. So language is very important. Similarly, people don't know battery cages. We talk about battery cages from morning to midnight. So we think the whole world knows about battery cages. Have you done a test of whether your next door neighbor knows what a battery cage is? Unless, of course, you've subjected that next door neighbor to hours of lectures. Yeah. Anyone? We don't know these words. These are words that animal people know. People outside the animal world, outside this hotel, even in the lobby of this hotel, do not know, right? So let's try and keep our communication, oh, sorry, too fast. Let's try and keep our communication limited to words that people understand outside. And from there, we've talked about language, we've talked about not mixing advocacy with fundraising. Now, we're going to talk about when you build the will in people to donate, how do you frame your issue? So we're just going to talk about framing for a little bit. I'm just going to come down here because it's more equitable this way. So the first frame, for example, that we use a lot is something called a shock frame, right? Which is very effective in advocacy, though there are people who might disagree with that. How effective is a shock frame? Okay, I want to do a disclaimer here, is that none of these frames that I'm going to show you, they are not either all, oh yes, this is good, use it in all your communications. Or it's not, oh, this is bad, never do this. The idea really is your organization's voice and your organization's communication is very, very you. So you need to test it and figure out what works for you. So the first thing is the shock frame. Anyone know what I mean by a shock frame? Not you. Anyone else? Graphic images or reality, which is, I mean, I recommended to somebody, this was when I was still young and innocent, I recommended that their first exposure to veganism be through the film Dominion, which is very hard. It is very, very hard for people to take, right? The shock frame can work in two ways. People can either make the switch or they can just run away because it's so disturbing to look at it that they don't want to look at it at all. And I know this happens even though, for example, I'm very actively a part of a rescue group in my local area. And when there are terrible graphic videos that come on my WhatsApp group, what do? I cannot see them, yeah? So this was actually, it had to be credited to somebody, and there's an advertising professional who said, you can see animal welfare ads a mile off. And this is just about the standard look of an animal welfare ad. Imagine if you used shock. For some people, it might work, but it's a 50-50. You equally run the risk of turning that person off. The second is more interesting. It is the intelligence frame. What do? We say, oh, my octopus friend, you know, it just shows how intelligent the octopus is. So, or this Betty campaign, I think this hen was called Lady Betty. Oh yeah, meet Betty. Betty is a sociable hen. She loves to search. She can recognize over 100 of her friends by their facial features. She has more than 24 distinct cries that communicate a wealth of information. And she is an excellent problem solver. So this is what I call an intelligence frame, which is that you try and establish with your audience that the farmed animal that you're raising money for is an intelligent being, and therefore, people should give you money. What are the pitfalls or positives in such a frame? Discuss ideas from the group. Again, not you. You drank magic juice and came. What are the advantages of this, the intelligence frame?
Using those words or using graphic images.
Absolutely. I think it makes especially for example, if you watched My Octopus Friend, It just makes it relatable. People establish a connection because they find a similarity. Yes, there are advantages to this frame, undoubtedly. Establishes sentience. What could...
Also, maybe when they, let's say I have a chicken pet, and let's say my friend eats chicken, but he comes to my home and he pets them. And every time he eats the chicken next time, maybe he will think, okay, this is a sentient being, and if my kid could not eat it, he was like a pet. He could do so many things. So how can I eat that? So maybe
Yeah.
he will establish a connection later.
Absolutely. Yeah, so these are the reasons why these frames exist in the first place. But what is the problem with the intelligence frame? It's overwhelming. To think that there are so many sentient beings who are killed. What's the overwhelm there? The details, okay. Anything else? Sorry? Why is it not convincing enough? Lack of evidence, yes. If you are a person for whom intelligence is a criterion for giving, then you will then be defending, quoting studies ad nauseum. You will not be able to justify it. Any other reason? Yes. Okay, can you expand a little bit more on that?
If you're focusing just on intelligence, there would be several levels. So you would have to start from children, high school, college students, and so on and so forth. So you have to tailor-make the intelligence frame for what you want to focus on and or who you want to educate.
Thank you. One of the things is that I find the intelligence frame fundamentally problematic. It is actually encouraging a donor to say that beings that display high intelligence deserve a better quality of life than beings that don't have that high level of intelligence. Find any echoes of this in political happenings around the world? Yeah? Quite a few wars have started because of this intelligence argument among human beings, and we now have an intelligence criteria where we are saying that you need to qualify. You need to be able to recognize 100, 200 distinct faces, and you have to be able to have X, Y, Z in order to qualify for my money. I find that deeply problematic, but it's a personal choice. Again, there is no judgment here in the sense of, as it is, farmed animal organizations have a very tough time raising money. So I would actually say that use it, but use it minimally. Use it because we need to raise money. Let's just be very clear about that. We need to raise money, but use the intelligence argument minimally so that it doesn't become the main platform on which you are asking for money. The third one is really what I call animals are so like us. And this was challenged by a thinker called Martha Nussbaum. And basically, this so like us argument is that give money to animals to farmed animals because they are so like us. Counterpoint? Yeah, so it stares you in the face. It's a bit like the intelligence argument. So I have a funny story. So I went into a school and I was doing a session on farmed animals. And one of the posters that I had put up was from some organization that said, Animals are friends and we don't eat our friends. And this 10-year-old said, is it okay to eat our enemies? So, words are, so powerful, right? So I really feel that we are trying to move this conversation from giving donors this, oh, animals are just like us. Animals are intelligent. We are almost like making the animals jump through hoops and qualify for support, when fundamentally suffering, the fact of suffering, should do. So, in addition to highlighting suffering, what are some of the other things that our communication can do? One is the social norm frame. PETA, India, does this amazingly well because they make money, giving money, look cool. They show you examples of people who are giving money to these causes. There are celebrities. They show role models who give money. So when it becomes the social norms, when you show them how someone else is doing it, then people tend to give money. The second thing is use an achievable frame, which is that if you overwhelm your donor with how huge the problem of factory farming is or animal agriculture is, and billions and billions and billions of animals, and we don't know whether in our lifetimes we will ever see an end to this kind of argument, then you just cause despair, right? You have to give your donor hope that through that money, they can actually they can advance the movement one step further. So use an achievable frame so that the donor doesn't find that the goal is too daunting or hopeless. The third is a protagonist frame where you include the donor in your story. You already assume, sometimes when you go to somebody's trying to sell you something and they already assume that you want to buy it. That's the point of view that they come from. So we are doing the same thing here, except that we don't make it about what they do, but who they are. Assume that your donor cares about suffering, that it would be unthinkable for them to do otherwise. When you assume that, you speak to not just their values, as I have here, but you speak to the values that they would like you to think they have. Okay, that makes it very complicated, but what I'm really trying to say is you can actually talk to your donors about, you are like this, you care about suffering because you do X, Y, Z, and I'm sure you're enraged when you find out that this is what is happening. So use that kind of language. So I'm now going to break this up because I've talked enough and I also need a break. So let's take 10 minutes. If you can form small groups, you don't have to move around. You can just turn your chairs around to face each other and just the people nearby. If you can just talk about, in your experience of raising money for farmed animals, what are the motivations that have worked the best? Move. 10 minutes. I told you this was a workshop and I'm not even making you work as hard as Karthik did. So. So what we'll also have is not the same people who were leaders of the groups in the previous session, but if you could have one person who can sort of summarize the discussions of the group and share it. Okay. I know it's not yet fully 10 minutes, but I'm going to, because we will need a little bit of time. Are you all sort of done? Yes? So let me come along and pass the mic. Who is going to share from this group? Yeah. In just 1 or 2 sentences, please.
So I wrote like 10 points. So it depends. So I took my experience, like I also donate to some people who does it. So one of the reasons I donate is because I cannot do it. For example, some cat and people who just feed cat and dogs or take care of them. So I cannot do it by myself. So I donate to them. Second is like they when they donate, they feel very good. Like they are part of they have done something good in their life. Also, they feel morally aligned to their own values. Sometimes they have pet at home, so they feel like, okay, that's they feel the connection. Also, they feel like they are working. So if I'm giving money, basically someone is working on behalf of me. They are on the ground. Sometimes for religious reasons as well. That if someone is in their religion, it could be, for example, I'm a Jain, and in Jains, I know a lot of people give because of their religion. They donate a lot. Yeah, I have a lot, but yeah.
Yes. Thank you so much. This group?
Yeah. Okay, so in our group, this is, I collated all their answers. Number one, they resonate with the animals. It's a relatable experience. Basically, what you feel when you see a dog and a cat is the same when you see farm animals. Second one, feeling of guilt or remorse because of personal happening. This is a personal anecdote. I'm not sure if it's okay to disclose, but long story short, there's a happening personally that make you resonate to animals more. Third, the feeling of being responsible for the welfare of the animals because they are a part of a society. Ideally, this should be all of us, but yeah, that's another one. Number four, influencers, because they resonate with the influencers, they are idolizing them, so all of the causes that they endorse, they're going to buy for them. And then the fifth one, they just really want to help because by default, they're just a good person. And then lastly, it's a commemoration for a personal experience. So huge some amount of money are being donated to charities because they have a personal connection to them.
Thank you so much. That was very eloquent. Is this the same group? Who is speaking?
I'll just share the main bullet points. Really, it's we thought that religion again is a big motivating factor. At least in India, a lot of people give because of their religious beliefs. The next one was emotional connect. So when people have emotional connect to the cause or the animals, they are likely to donate more. And people seem to donate more to capital expenditure. That's what it's called. And in like very simply put, it is like buying things, so which which have views in animal welfare, and they want their probably name put on it, and in recognition of their charity, etc. So
Which group? That one. You presented in the last session as well.
Thank you once again for the opportunity. So unfortunately, we didn't go first. So here, this guy and Prashant sir took all the good points. But anyway, we are still left with 3. So the first point is that what we feel is the USP factor matters a lot. As in, let's say there are 10 organizations that are working for the dog welfare, then the donor might get confused as to where exactly I'm supposed to donate. And he or she might not donate anywhere. But let's say there is just one organization who is doing something specific in a niche sector, then okay, he or she might feel that, okay, this is where I can donate. So USP can be like a really big motivating factor. The second factor is tax benefits. Like, I'm surprised nobody mentioned it, but I'm not sure about other places, but in India, there is this thing called ATG, where like this law or bill allows donors to claim tax benefits if they donate a certain amount. So that can be one of the big motivating factors, and this can be leveraged by the organization or the non-profits to, like gather more donations. Yeah. So.
I'm really sorry. Does anyone have a point that is not covered by this list of things that you do? Okay. I'm just quickly going to run and come there because we are running out of time. Here. So I'm running. Oh, sorry.
See, having a fundraising target and talk about the progress you're making towards the target, dividing the project into phases so you can talk about your successes in each phase, and making the donors feel like they're really part of something important and feeling special.
The consultant speaks very eloquently. Amazing. Thank you so much for playing along. I think that one of the things that I hoped we would have more of a time to do here is a lot of people in this group have a lot of experience, and but we don't have so much time. But I just want to quickly just indicate what some of the other things that need to be part of a toolkit. And this is something that we are realizing. One is we've recently, so I want to share a little bit of our experience. In India especially, I think fundraising for animals is at a very serendipitous point. There are lots of initiatives, there are lots of institutions that have come up, set up by high net worth individuals to give money to farmed animal causes and other animal causes. And this has happened in the last couple of years. And this, I mean, it's really a moment in time that we need to really take advantage of because there's a lot that's happening in the environment to support it. And one of the things we've been very fortunate that has happened in the last, 2 weeks is that now mainstream grants, which are otherwise meant for, which would normally go, I mean, every cause is, I just want to, every cause deserves money, right? But it would always be the case that animal organizations did not usually qualify for mainstream grants. Usually those would go to disability organizations, health organizations, others. We just won one grant instituted by a high net worth individual, which is a mainstream grant. Now, that coming to an animal organization is actually something that opens up a huge new phase for animal organizations. And this is not just for us as an organization, but it's also for us to expand the funding landscape for all animal organizations. So in that sense, the fact that fundraising is for animal organizations is coming to some kind of there's something happening in the air. That's all I can say. And some of the essentials that we need to have in place is first, the ability to say why you do what you do in a very simple, straightforward manner, without using what? Jargon. Thanks. The second thing that you need to be able to do while communicating is show why someone should care, rather than telling why someone should care. Who was there for the meditation session yesterday when Hive did that networking? Who was there for the meditation? Yeah? Were you imagining yourself being that hen running around on green grass, pecking at things, looking curiously up there? Did you imagine that? In that one exercise, what Hive did was to show us, take us into the mind of the hen, instead of telling us facts and figures. The third thing I would say, in a place where we are all trying to cut down words and trying to make it as compact as possible, our communication as compact as possible, if you have to use extra words and make it longer for the sake of talking like a human being and sounding normal, conversational, please use more words. Don't cut it down and take away from readability. The fourth, no, we are not talking about matrix here. We're talking about data. So the importance of looking at how you keep data. You know, does anyone here have a donor database? Yeah, yeah. What do you keep it on? Sorry, I can't hear you, I'm running there. Yes, please, sorry.
The recent report to them that we have a commit some of the donor deliverables already, and we send to them that, and we based on what we achieve in the last report.
No. I'm asking you, where do you, the names of donors and their phone numbers and their email IDs, how do you keep it? You do, yeah, okay. Anyone? Chani? you have a CRM? Yeah, so Animal Rahat has a CRM that they use for keeping donor data. Anyone else who's using a CRM? You use Salesforce, okay. So we're just getting to use, we used to have an Excel sheet. We are soon going to have Zoho. Doesn't matter what you use. Get your data in order, because as the number, especially remember who are the donors we are talking about in this presentation, not the 4 or 5 donors whose contact details you can have on your phone. We're talking about thousands and thousands of donors. For that you need a database, so please have that database in place. Governance. So I'm just leaving this slide right at the end. The governance is hugely important. Time's up, says Sarita. So I'm just going to leave this here. And these are some things to think about so that you can strengthen these areas as well as internal policies, internal systems in order to be more attractive to donors. Oh. Finally, we don't have time for questions, sorry. But again, hugely excited to showcase our new brand identity and our new website that will be coming up very shortly. So thank you very much for playing along, and yeah, bye-bye.